Okay, hopefully that fixes the encoder settings. Yeah, let me know if things get laggy or anything like that, or choppy. It's kind of hard to tell what was wrong with the settings. I didn't really change much, but it looks like it is recording now. So cool. Hopefully everybody's back in the room. Sorry I had to stop and restart the stream. So, all right. So here's where we're at. We are incorporating elm-html-test into elm-explorations test for elm-o.19. That involves also pulling in a couple of these other libraries that are dependencies of elm-html-test, and we've also been dealing with the fact that elm-exploration tests for itself are set up in kind of a weird way because it can't use elm-test because it is elm-test, or it's a dependency of elm-test. Anyway, our next task is to fix this. I think this comes from one of these other packages, so I think probably the thing to do will be to check that out, run elm upgrade on it to upgrade it for elm-19, and then pull over the tests, pull over the code just like we did last time. But I think this one is only one implementation file, so it should be a bit quicker. All right, so let's have at it. So elm-html query. So this is what we want. Oh, great, and this doesn't even have any tests itself. So I think I'm just going to clone this into a folder real quick and run elm upgrade on it, and then just move the file over. So let's grab this. Let's go to our terminal. cd elm-html query. And we are doing now npx. Actually, what version of Elm? Okay, which Elm is that? I'm not sure how that's installed. If we do npm install -g elm-o.19, will that have preference on our path? I hope so. No, it does not. Okay, that's just a file. I'm trying to figure out what the best way is to get elm-19 on my path here, because if I run npx elm upgrade latest, this will complain that we don't have elm-19. In the package we just did earlier, we had it installed locally in the local node modules. I guess we can do that again. npm install elm-o.19, and we'll also need elm format elm-o.19. Yes, it's kind of confusing. There's so many different ways to install all this stuff. Okay, let's see if that works. This command is messed up, but it should say npx there. Not sure why my up arrow in the terminal is getting corrupted every time. Okay, and here's our upgrade log. And what did it change in source? It formatted and grouped everything there. Sorted some of the imports. Okay, formatted the docs. Formatted if statements. What's different here? Oh, that's the let in block. Okay, cool. So that all looks good. So let's move this then into our project. So this is elm-html. It's a whole new folder. So let's add it here. Oh, whoops. That's not what I wanted to do. I did not want to add it to my workspace. I wanted to copy the files over. Okay, so this is going to source, and then elm-html is coming here. Okay, great. So I think this will still fail with the same error. Oh, actually it didn't. Interesting. Oh, okay, so this is from an implementation file, not from a test file that was referring to this, so this did not need to get added to the list of exposed modules, which is great. Okay, so now we're missing elm-html-2 and I believe that is from the third package. So I think we got everything from elm-html query. I'm going to close this window. And this is the last one. This does have some tests. Oh, interesting. There's native code in the tests, but not in the implementation. Ugh, okay, that might be problematic for upgrading. Okay. So I guess let's do the same thing here. Let's clone this down, run elm upgrade on it, and then move stuff over. So let's git clone this. Now, I guess after 3 times of doing this, we've learned the best way is to locally install the correct versions of Elm and Elm format. elm-o.19.0 and Elm format for elm-o.19.0. Then we can run npx elm upgrade latest. And okay, here we go. Install some stuff and git status. Let's look through this real quick. Let's use fork this time rather than the command line, just so we have some more visual space. Okay, node modules we don't care about. Here we go. Okay, so this fixed up the docs and the imports. Looks fine. Same thing here. Okay, this documentation looks like it was supposed to be a code block, but it wasn't indented. So we can fix that up. That's in internal types. Oh, I guess we need to open this in VS Code. Up to 3 VS Code windows open. I think that's a new record for this stream. And what was that called? Internal types. Okay. And that somewhere was backslash, yeah, okay. So this should be indented like that. Great. And then fixing up the tuple functions, adding spacing for if statements, exposing stuff, sorting format or sorting imports, unnecessary parentheses, let indentation. Okay. And same thing. Docs, sorting, paragraph formatting, parentheses, indentation, let indentation. Okay, great. That all looks fine. And again, I'm just using the get staging to keep track of things of what I've looked at already. I'm not actually going to make a PR for this. We're just moving the code into this other project. Okay, so we are looking for elm-html-test, which is in there. Okay, great. Let's just pull the whole folder in. So source, elm-html, and then that should go here into source, elm-html, which we already have. Finder will just combine these folders, right? Replace it. Oh, no. Okay. I guess we have to dig in here and move all of these. And let's see, I guess we have a to-do list, so let's add this pull in tests from elm-html in Elm, which we didn't move over yet. All right, now where are we at? Okay, html.inert. And that's from this first elm-html-test package right here. So source, and I guess we just need to pull that over. I'm not sure why VS Code is not letting me drag folders between projects, but it's fine. We can do it in Finder. Inert, move that. This is empty. We can get rid of that. We have some native code we're going to have to deal with eventually, but we will do that when the tests fail. Okay. Speaking of that, it is now time to deal with the native code. So, let's see. There is already some native code in this project, I thought. Oh, or did we get... Oh, no, here it is. Okay, it's under Elm kernel now. And I'm going to have to refresh my memory on how this all works. And actually, let's look at this first and figure out what this even does and why we even need native code. So what does this do? Okay, so this is a native module from Elm 18. It does not work this way anymore in Elm 19. But it's returning this object, and these are basically the functions or values that are exposed by this module. So there's two JSON, there's event decoder. What is event? There's tagger function, and there's attribute to JSON. And then force funcs. Oh, weird. Okay, so these just return their inputs. So these are just kind of fake little native wrappers that are magically changing the types of things, which apparently is safe for some reason. This is pulling something out. I'm not sure why this is safe. And this is actually calling some JavaScript code. which I've actually remember fixing a bug in here in the past. This basically runs through the virtual DOM and makes sure that all of the, I think just all the lazy code is instantiated, something like that. Okay, so I guess we're going to need this, and we will need to convert this to the elm-19 kernel code format. I guess we may as well just put it into the same module, maybe. I guess I'm not really sure what's best to do. Should we make a separate module for this, or should we put it into this existing elm kernel test? I feel like eventually it should go here, but why don't we just make a new one to keep things separate for the moment? So this will be HTML as JSON.js. We will be using this as a template. And now, how does this work? So we're going to have HTML as JSON, which, whoops, I spelled it wrong here. Rename as JSON. Okay. HTML as JSON. I guess let's call this to JSON to match this. This is going to be a function that takes HTML, and we're going to return this. And then I'm assuming we can just stick this function in here, and it'll be a private function. I guess we'll find out. And then we also have this stuff, which I guess is all going to be function, HTML as JSON, our thing, and then the parameters. Okay. And I guess these are all formatted this way, so let's match that. And I don't think we need any of this stuff imported because we're not really referring to any of it. Like over here, we had these other things from other modules we wanted to refer to. So I don't think we need that. But I guess we'll find out. Also, the elm-19 is kind of picky about the kernel code. There aren't really good error checking, and it doesn't give you any good messages because it's not really intended for people to use. Okay. So we have this. So now, instead of native HTML as JSON, it should be, however we're doing this with the with this other kernel code, which I'm assuming is going to import somewhere elm.kernel.test. Yeah, okay. So wherever we're using this, we should now switch to elm.kernel.html.json. So let's find that, elm.kernel. And there's a few places. Okay. All right, let's see what happens. Oh, interesting. Okay, so I guess this means that elm-explorations test is going to have to depend on elm-html. I guess we were expecting that. Maybe there's a way to make that not be a hard dependency, but I guess we just need to roll with it for now. So let's check the elm.json and make sure it makes this change correctly. Oops. And we need to npx that. Okay. So that looks fine. All right, npx elm install elm-json. Now npm test again. Okay. So HTML events dot options. What is that supposed to be? That's on line 182. Is that imported? Oh, html.events.options. Ah, okay. So this is something that has changed in Elm 19. I am not sure what the details are for this. So elm-html events, and there's no options here. So what did this used to look like in the previous package, which was elm-lang elm-html in Elm 18. So events, options. Okay, so options in Elm 18 used to be stop propagation and prevent default, which were options that you could pass. On with options. Okay, I see. And now you either use on if you don't want any options, or if you want stop propagation, you use this function. Or if you want prevent default, you use this. Ah, I see. Or if you want both options, you can use custom. Okay, so this type, there's no longer a type for this, but there is a record and there are some other functions we can use. So I guess we need to convert this. So line 182. And this is event record. Ah, okay, so this is recording events that happen during test so that I guess we can check them later. So I guess we want to record everything. So let's just put these two bools in here now. So we're basically just inlining that record. Oh, wait, there was a case where my curly braces didn't line up, so I guess it's highlighting this one in bright red. What if I had a curly brace there? Huh, it still thinks that's the wrong one. Okay. All right. How does multiple selection stuff work in VS Code? So you, I guess there's some different ways. There's like a way to place, oh yeah, I guess if you hold Option, you can just click in multiple places and drop new cursors. I usually don't do that. What I do is I select a word, and then if you do Command D, it will add a new cursor that selects the next occurrence of that word. And then you can keep hitting Command D and it'll like go through the whole file and wrap around, like selecting all those words, and then they're all selected. So you can like type whatever if you're careful and use like navigation keys that navigate by words. You can kind of do some nice manipulations. So that's how I usually use it. I'm sure I've never really read any detailed tutorials about VS Code features, so that's kind of one of the limited things I know. Okay, so line 477. Okay, and then decode options. So where is this used? Okay, so this is used in here. I guess maybe we should just define our own type, event options, maybe. Stop propagation here. Yeah, let's do that. Event options. Type alias event options equals. And 477. That, then this will be event options. Okay. Great, then debug.crash no longer exists. Well, there's debug.todo, but we're not allowed to use it in packages anymore. So from HTML, I guess we need to I guess we need to make this a result for the moment. And in that case, oh, HTML, okay. So here, this will be okay, and this will be error. I guess we'll have to see how this, changing this in the API affects things. We may not want to actually make this change. Line 60. Okay, same thing here, parse attribute. So this will also give a result for now. Okay, now we have some variable name shadowing. So we've got taggers. I guess we'll call this tagger and rest. All right. Inert, line 23. Okay, what's wrong here? ++ cannot append these two things. One is a string. Oh, right. Because JSON decode value now gives JSON decode errors instead of strings. But if I recall correctly, there is, whoops, it would be in JSON decode, there's something to string, error to string. Cool, so we can convert this. So the error, JSON error, we will use JSON.decode.error to string. Great. Let's split this line out while we're at it. Oops, and this is now called JSON error. And this is the same thing, I'm assuming. Line 63. Cool. JSON error, and then this is JSON decode. Oops. JSON.decode.error to string with the capital T. All right, line 109. Has styles, and then we destructure this to be styles also. So what do we do with these? Dict2list facts.styles. Okay. I guess let's call this style values. I'm not really sure what a good name for that is. Then we've got toString on line 134. All right, so what is V? So in elm-19, there's no general, well, there's the general debug.toString, but we're not allowed to use it in packages. So depending on what V is, we'll have to figure out a different way to convert it to a string. So we have facts.bool attributes. So I'm assuming V is going to be a bool, but I don't really know. What is facts? So facts comes from our node record. What is node record? Internal types. Okay, node record's defined in this file. Here it is. So facts is a facts. Here's facts. So bool attributes is a dictionary of strings to bools. Okay, cool. So V, in this case, is going to be a bool. So let's just write a little function. I think there's like an extras package that was talking about adding a bool to string function somewhere. Actually, I feel like the core library should, I don't know, possibly include it, but I guess it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Anyway, it's easy to implement here. Case B of true, it'll be the string true. False, it'll be the string false. Easy. All right, now we have more variable name shadowing. So yeah, for those who haven't switched to elm-19 yet, you are not allowed to have two variables in the same scope with the same name. Okay, so here we have a function called query, so that we should not rename. So this we need to rename. How about we call it query string? Whoops, if I could type. Query string, there we go. And same thing on line 241. Query string. All right. I'm going to add to my command line here. Let's reset and npm test just to clear the terminal every time. Okay. So on line 53, text, and tag. So we've got a lot of this stuff. What is this used for? Selector to string. I'm assuming this is used to print error messages when there are test failures. Query, find all. Two lines help, yeah, okay. So if we do this slightly wrong, it doesn't matter too much. I'm thinking we'll probably just want a function that like adds double quotes to a string, which won't technically be correct if there's unusual characters in there. But I think it'll probably suffice for what we need for the moment, and it'll be easy to fix in the future if it causes problems for anyone. So let's first see what these things are. Selector. Okay, that's listed here. So text has a string, tag has a string. Okay. So both of these, and then bool attribute that has a name and a value. Okay. So I guess in here we're gonna want quote string. We'll take a string and we will just add double quotes around it, which again isn't technically correct, but we'll do for now. And once this is published, if anyone wants to make a PR to make this more correct, feel free to. And we're also going to need that bool to string function that we wrote over here. All right, so this is, most of these become quote string. This one does, this one, this one, this one, this one. These two become bool to string, and if there's others, we'll let the compiler tell us. 41. Okay, so this is string.join, and then calling toString. Oh, interesting. So this is a list. Classes has a list of strings. We join the strings with spaces, and then we quote the entire thing. I guess that's how CSS classes work in HTML, so that makes sense to me. Okay, and what is wrong here? Line 50. Attribute. Oh, attribute. For attribute, the value is also a string. So this one is also quote string. Cool. Phew. Okay. Looks like there's going to be a fair amount of this. I want to plow through a bit more, but I am also probably going to be wrapping this up for today in maybe, let's see, maybe like 20 minutes or so, depending on how sick we get of replacing toString function calls. So yeah, I'm curious if anyone here is going to be streaming themselves in the next hour or so, or if you all have other streamers that you are planning to watch after this. Let me know in the chat, because I would be interested to join you all in watching something else when I'm done here. So let's see, these are all in query internal. Okay, and there's some different things here. So I believe the API for this just changed slightly, like the function got renamed, something like that. Pretty print is shadowing, and then a bunch of toString. Okay, I like to just start from the bottom because that's where my console is always scrolled to. 153. So query.index is taking index. So what is index? This is a selector query, and selector query is a selector query, it looks like. What is that? Okay, so that's these. So index is an int. Okay. Hey, Tokino. Yeah, nice to have you here. I am planning to start putting this up on YouTube also. Although, apparently I messed up the recording and did not record the first half of today. Although, hopefully I can download it from Twitch again. I guess I'll find out after this. But, yeah, nice to have everybody show up. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to try to hopefully do one stream a week. I don't really have a consistent schedule planned, but I do have a bunch of projects that I want to work on, like finishing this up, for instance, but also some other stuff, which maybe I'll put a poll out sometime to see what people will be the most interested in. But yeah, it's nice to finally have some free time again to do this kind of stuff. Okay, so 153, we determined that the index value is an integer. And this, in that case, can be string.fromInt, I believe is the function in elm-19. Let's check this one while we're at it. 178. And what is this? List.length, that's going to give us an integer. Whoa, what is this? Max digits. It's calculating how many digits are in the length of the list. Oh, I see. And then it's going to indent stuff by that many digits. Oh, that's funny. Okay. In any case, we can use what can we use? We can use what we just used, string.fromInt. Although, also, the other way to do this is we take the log base 10 of this to get the number of digits and take the ceiling of that, right? Because if we do 10, log 10 over log 10, oh, I see. So we'd have to do the log of the length plus 1 and then take the ceiling of that to know how many digits. Yeah, okay. I am not going to mess with that right now because I don't want to introduce a subtle bug if I do it wrong. All right, 199. Cannot find toString. Okay, so this is an index, so this should also be string from int. Then this one, whoops, I wish, yeah, Evan didn't want to put the line number next to the file name. I guess his opinion is that all the editor plugins should be able to parse this whole thing and find the correct line number to link you to, but nobody is, like, that hasn't happened. I think it's unlikely to happen soon. So, manually jumping to this spot, query.index, string.fromInt. I'm assuming index here. Yeah, okay, that'll be an int also. All right, then line 389. toString, we're adding 1, so hopefully that's an integer from int. And cool. Let's do these other two strings real quick while we're here. 423, result count, that sounds like it should be an integer, string from int. And now we're down to get failure and this pretty print thing. Oh, this is just a variable name shadowing. So 57, that's a function, so we don't want to rename a top-level function. So here is an inner function. So what is this doing? This is joining missing descendants with separators. Pretty print sections, maybe we should call this. And we'll call that here. Okay. Then, okay, we've got missing descendants is also being shadowed. 461, it's a function, so we'll leave that alone. And then 435 is the variable name. Ah, okay. I guess we'll just call it missing descendants list. Also does not seem like a great name, but I'm not really super familiar with the code. I'm suspecting there's probably some larger refactoring that could clean this function up a bit, but I don't really want to dig into that now. Okay, then we've got one more toString on line 450. This is a length, so this should also be an int. And now we're just down to testrunner.getFailure. So I forget the details of this. I'm going to look up the docs for elm-explorations test and see if I can just find the thing for it. So this used to be in test runner. Get failure reason is the new function. So get failure is gone, and let's look that up in an old version. So what was it? It used to be called Elm Community elm-test. And we want the docs for this. I guess we'll go to, whoops, package. Just pick a random package, put in the package name. Okay, so previously in Elm 0.18, there was get failure, which returned a maybe with a given and a message. Get failure reason returns a maybe with a given, a description, and a reason. Okay, so this should be easy to switch to. So where is this? Line 542. Get failure reason. And then instead of message, it's now called description. And I guess there's a new field here that gives more structured information about the failure, which I guess if someone's looking for something in the future, maybe looking at this point to see if we can do something nicer based on that new structured information might be interesting, but is not necessary for this upgrade. Oops. Control G 384. Okay. And same thing here, get failure reason, and then now we have a description instead of a message. Cool. Let's try to do a little bit more. Okay, looks like there's 2 errors in this file. Oh, right. So this is what we saw earlier, where we had some debug.crashes in certain functions, and we changed those functions to return results because we can't use debug.crash in a package that we want to publish in Elm-19. So I guess now we get to see if that is going to be workable or if we need to do something else to deal with that. So the thing is, this now returns a result, and query needs a not result. And okay, I happen to know that single is a union type that has the ability to be in an error state. So let's look up what the different kinds of single values are. And I suspect that we can just turn it into a failure single in the case of us getting an error from this. So if that's the case, I think that would indicate that this particular use of from HTML, having it return a result instead of crashing, is going to be workable because we have a way to handle the error at this higher level. Okay, so internal.single is what? I guess that's in another file. Internal is this module. So let's find that. And single is, single, bool, and a query. The bool is show trace, whether to show the query from HTML trace at the beginning of the error message. Okay. And then what is query? Does query have support for an error? query has a node and then a list of selectors. So what is the node? Inert.node. HTML inert. Okay, so I'm not seeing what I thought would be there of. I was expecting either query or single to have a have a union tag that would indicate some kind of error condition. And it looks like that doesn't happen. So that means I'm not seeing an easy way to produce an error. That's not making sense to me though, because normally you do something like this. You make your HTML, you call query from HTML, which turns it into a single, and then you can do stuff like query.find, like text, not there. Like if this find doesn't match, you will end up with a single value that's in an error state that'll basically just always error in the query.has. So I know single can represent an error. I'm just not seeing how to represent that. Because basically, like, okay, I want to refactor this code in this way. We want to say case this of, and if we get an OK with the node, then we're going to take this and put the node here. But if we get an error, which this is the new error condition where we used to just crash instead of returning an error, but now we have an error. And if we can build up some kind of single value that is in an error state that contains this message, then we'll be good to go. So I'm not sure what should go there. Maybe we should look at query.find and see how it's implemented and figure out what it does when it can't find anything. Find is here, which calls find on the selectors, internal.find. I wish I could easily see the types of all of these things. So selectors is a list of selectors. We destructure the single with the show trace and the query. Oh, I see. It just builds up a query and it doesn't actually run the query until the has. I see. Okay, so I guess my mental model of what was going on was wrong. I was assuming that find would actually execute the query and give you a new single that just represented the nodes that it found. But it looks like actually all it's doing is building up information about what queries should be executed, and then when we do has, I guess, it executes all those queries. Okay. That's interesting. So I think we can't easily, like, I don't want to change this to return a result because this is like the entry point to the whole HTML testing library. Like right here, you can see it in the example. Basically every HTML test you'd write is going to use this. So if this starts returning a result, then you've got to deal with it in every single test, and it's just going to be add a whole bunch of ugliness and boilerplate to everybody's tests. Okay, let's to do. We need to signal an error here. But for now, let's just try to build up the simplest single value we can and see what that does and what kind of test failures we get if we do that. So single comes from the internal module. Close others. And internal, I'm assuming from query. Let's pull this over here. Okay, so single is this. So we're going to make an internal.single with false, I guess. I'm not entirely sure what this trace is, but I don't see why we would need it. Then we're going to need a query, and query is always this. So it's always internal.query with a node and with a list of selectors. So let's just put an empty list. Okay, so far this is like exactly the same code up here. Now the problem is we don't have a node. So what is inert.node? Inert.node is a node which contains elm-html. Impossible message. Attribute, event decoder. Okay, so we need to signal an error here. I'm thinking we can maybe just build up an HTML node that's just like contains this error message text. So it'll be kind of weird, but it'll be like if one of these errors occurs, it's kind of just changes your HTML into a document that just contains this error text, which I think will at least print out what the message is, even though it's kind of weird. But I think that'll be okay. So I guess we can call this html.inert capital inert dot from elm-html, and then this, now we need to make an elm-html, which I'm not sure how we make that. elm-html internal types, and these are all exposed. Great. So we can make elm-html internal types dot text tag this with text, and we'll put our error message in here. Text equals message. Okay, this seems like a really nasty hack, and I feel like maybe the way all this internal query stuff and singles and things like that are implemented needs to be restructured a bit so that we can avoid having to, or like so that we have a way in there to capture errors. So I'll revisit this before this is ready to publish, but at least that should make it compile. Okay, and we did not import this yet, I'm assuming. Oh, we did. We just imported it with an alias. So all we need to say is inert.that. And what happened? Okay, that one looks like it's good. And now the problem we have is another instance of the same problem. 386 inert. Oh, interesting. And what is HTML to Elm? that's only used internally, so maybe we could have this return a result. I guess we could also just pull this fix that we made up into this higher function in the, or I guess it's a lower level function from HTML here. We could get rid of this result to do, should this return a result instead? Currently the callers of this can't easily handle getting a result string node instead of just a node. Yeah, I think if we take this weird thing, this is the node right here, and we get rid of this, and instead we return node with this inside of it, and this is the message. If we do that, then this code can go back to how it was, which I'm realizing I didn't check this stuff into version control before we started making all these changes. I should probably do that before we do much more. Okay, so we'll just put this hack in here for now so that we don't have to change this API, but I think this is still an important to do to look into and fix at some point. Cool. All right, well, I think that's all of the tedium that I can take for today on this. So I think I'm going to wrap this up here and come back to it on a future stream sometime within the next week. I'm not really sure what day or what time of that day yet, but you can follow me here on Twitch to get the notifications, or when you follow, you have the option to choose if you want notifications when I go live. And you can also follow me on Twitter, AVH4, and I usually tweet some kind of advance notice when I do these. Like today it was only 15 minutes notice, but you can follow me either of those places if you want to see more. And also hit me up on Twitter, let me know what kind of stuff you all are working on or what kind of things you might be interested to see on the stream. Generally functional programming type stuff. I'm interested in like distributed file systems, serverless web apps, that kind of stuff. I have a few projects planned for the future, which I will share some details about later on. I guess also I'll probably have some streams doing some Haskell coding, since Elm format is written in Haskell. And I have a bit of maintenance work to do on that. But yeah, let's see. I don't see anybody I'm following who is online right now, so I guess there's nobody that I'm going to try to raid at the moment, but thank y'all for tuning in, and I'll probably be in the chat for a few minutes afterwards if you have any other questions or want to send me some interesting stuff. So thanks. I will see y'all next time, hopefully. Later.